I just opened an Etsy shop to sell some of my creations, and we're talking total noob. But just in the past 11 days, as I've worked on setting up my shop, I have run into 11 things that have caused me headaches, and hopefully me sharing these with you will save a bit of your sanity because it's too late for mine. Let's jump in. The first thing I learned pretty much right away was that it's pretty normal for Etsy to suspend your shop almost immediately after opening it. Now, I did not know this at first. So when I uploaded that first listing and then 2 hours later, I had this big banner saying account suspended, I was terrified. But after doing some digging in some forums and watching some YouTube videos, I did learn that it is not uncommon for this to happen to brand new accounts and brand new sellers. And I was able to get my account reinstated. It was about maybe 10 days later. The problem though was my first listing was a Christmas listing, and that 10 days was pretty much the entire window that people might possibly be interested in what I was selling. So that really deflated my momentum, and honestly, I did not touch my Etsy store for about a month after that. And that is why I've got that asterisk around my first 11 days in the title, because I am counting those first 2 days in December where I actually tried to set up the store, and then starting again when I logged back into Etsy a few weeks later to try again. The second thing I learned pretty quickly is that Etsy support isn't always super helpful, and that often the best resources when you are having difficulty with your Etsy shop are the forums or even some YouTube videos. The one time I did have a chat with somebody at the Etsy help, let's just say they were not really very helpful at all. The third thing that I've learned so far is that when it comes to the learning curve, as somebody who's never done anything like this before online, I really needed to focus on one thing, meaning one category. So at first I was watching all of these different videos and having all these great ideas about, oh, I can sell shirts and I can sell mugs and I can do all of these things. And the reality is that as I started to get into that world, it was completely overwhelming. So I decided that first I would just focus on digital downloads, and specifically digital downloaded wall art, where people download it and then they send it to a photo center and print it and frame it themselves. Focusing in on this one area of printable wall art, at least for now, has let me develop my skills much more quickly and with much less frustration than I think I would have if I had been trying to divide my learnings amongst all of these different product categories. The fourth thing that I discovered was that there are a lot of random things that are trademarked that you wouldn't necessarily guess are trademarked. You really need to make sure that you're looking up trademarks for pretty much everything you put on a design and anything that you put in the listing title. So at one point I was thinking of doing a design about embrace the mess, right? So mom life sort of vibe. And I looked at the trademark and lo and behold, embrace the mess was trademarked, and it was a live trademark. But then I looked up embrace the messy, and that was fine. And actually, I kind of love messy more than mess now that I've put it together. I was able to really dive in with messy buns and messy kisses, but just don't forget to check those trademarks. The fifth thing that really caused some frustration at first was realizing that Canva, which is one of the programs I'm using to design some of my products, doesn't output 300 DPI JPEGs. So 300 DPI is usually what you want the pixel resolution to be for printing so that you don't get that pixelation. And so I would make sure when I was doing Canva that I was creating on the canvas that was the size I needed, and that I was moving the bars all the way over to make sure that I was getting the pixels right to be that 300 DPI image. I would save, download, and I would look at the properties and it still was 96 DPI. I can't tell you how much time I spent trying to figure out what I was doing wrong before I finally Googled it and realized this is just Canva. They don't let you download 300 DPI images. So at this point, I have found a workaround. I don't know if there are better ones. So if you have a better one, definitely share in the comments. But so far I've used Small PDF, which is a website that has some free functionality. And so far that's all I've needed, but they also have some paid plans. But basically you drag a PDF, which Canva will output in DPI as long as you do PDF print. And then this program will output in a zipped file your images at 300 DPI in JPEG form. So the next thing that I kind of stumbled over were the file size limitations and number limitations in Etsy listings. So in Etsy, when you go to upload a listing, all files uploaded have to be a maximum of 20 megabytes, and there are only 5 allowed. So this was actually one of the reasons that I had to figure out how to convert high-res PDFs into 300 DPI JPEGs, because JPEGs take up much less memory than PDFs. So knowing this ahead of time and taking the steps you need to make sure you only have 5 files, all of which are less than 20 megabytes, will save you a lot of headaches and frustration when you start creating your first listings. Now, the next thing I discovered pretty quickly as I was looking at successful listings and just trying to figure out how to have a successful digital wall art shop is that variations and bundles are key. You really need to package things together. So if it is a single design, offer it in multiple colors, offer it in a bundle with other coordinating pieces. And this way you can give buyers more options and they really feel like they're getting more bang for their buck. Now, one thing related to variations that did cost me some time, I created this nursery design. It's a bundle of 4 designs, and I wanted to offer it in both a multicolor version and in a monochrome version. So I thought, okay, I'll just add a variation, right? And then I should be able to upload 2 different sets of files. Well, the problem is that when you are looking through a digital product listing, that add variation option is simply not there. And it wasn't until I had spent probably a good 2 hours trying to figure this out that I stumbled across this piece of information that said, oh, actually, for digital products, these variations are not available. So I decided that these would be 2 separate listings, and we'll see how it goes. The next thing I've discovered is that when it comes to creating really good mockups, it takes a lot of time. So you spend time creating the design and then you're like, all right, I'm going to list this on Etsy. And then 3 hours later, you might be ready because it takes time to find the mockup images, to really size it right, to make sure that you have all of the different variations of images that will really let a customer see the different options and really envision it for their needs. One thing, if you have decided to stick with one category, these mockups do go much more quickly once you have a few already created, because it just gets easier to swap out the images and backgrounds, and you don't have to create everything from scratch every single time. The next thing I stumbled across as I was doing some niche research was that, oh, I need to create a listing video. Now, for digital products, these are a little bit different often than physical product videos. And I noticed that a lot of the other shops in my niche were doing more shop trailer sorts of videos. So I did put one of those together and put it on my listings. Now, listing videos on Etsy have to be 5 to 15 seconds. I learned this when I tried to upload a 20-second video. They also don't play sound. So I tried to get cute and do a voiceover and music, and nope, they need to communicate everything you need to just with the visual. So make sure you keep that in mind as well. One thing I really recommend when you first start creating listings from scratch is to look at other shops selling what you sell and look in their listing language and find out what they've discovered they need to put in there. Because there were a lot of things that I hadn't really thought of, like putting in 3 different places that this is a digital download, you won't be getting anything in the mail, or language about refunds, or language about sizes. Now, no, I'm not copying anything from these other sellers. I just gathered several examples and then use those to inform what I was putting in my listing, because when you're starting from scratch, you don't really have any idea what needs to be in that listing description. Okay, so number 11, maybe the one that is my downfall. So I started on Etsy because I'm like, hey, it's a search engine. People can find me, and this way I don't have to do my own marketing and have my own website. But really what I've discovered is that until you bring in your own sales, the Etsy algorithm doesn't really show you to anyone. So apparently I need to put my social media big girl pants on and start posting on my socials. Hopefully that might generate a bit of traffic so that eventually I might find some organic Etsy sales. If you don't want to miss the next video on my Etsy shop, definitely subscribe. Now go do something creative.